We don't always get it right. It took us longer than I care to admit to live up to our priorities and values that we have today. There was a time where we were unintentionally failing our teachers and our students. And so we took a hard look at what wasn't working, and we were brave enough to make some changes. But these changes hurt. They were painful and they were scary. There are moments of my life that I'll always remember because they were quite heavy. But today, our studio is so much stronger because of them. In this video, I'm going to share some of the lessons we learned the hard way as a multi-teacher in-home music lesson studio. So let's dive in. The 24-hour makeup policy. Probably the most controversial change that we've made was removing the 24-hour makeup policy. The 24-hour policy means that a student can give up to 24 hours notice to cancel their lesson. And by giving that notice, they now have the opportunity to reschedule their lesson to another time. This is a pretty standard policy across music schools, especially back in 2016 when we were just getting started. And so, of course, we did the same. But with in-home lessons, things were constantly chaotic. And it was specifically that policy that was burning out our teachers. I understand how the 24-hour policy might seem fair. I mean, our families are really busy and life happens. You can't always predict that your child is going to wake up with a fever or that a family emergency will happen. But after allowing this policy for many years and then seeing the consequences of what it did to our teachers, I now strongly oppose it. What that policy is saying, essentially, is that the student's time is more important than the teacher's. And this is really damaging to a teacher's mindset and their overall long-term health. I mean, if you really think about it, the 24-hour policy says a teacher needs to reserve 2 time slots for one student, but you're only going to get paid for one of them. And I think students need to understand that teachers have mortgages and bills that they have to pay too. And they don't get to opt out when they wake up sick or when they have a family emergency. And on top of that, let's throw in-home lessons where the location of the lesson is never the same. Teachers were spending so much time figuring out their new schedules, creating new routes, and having to drive for longer periods of time because their route wasn't efficient anymore. And this burden, it didn't just fall on teachers. Parents and students were getting frustrated too because they weren't able to coordinate their schedules and find a lesson time that would match both the teachers and the students. So makeup lessons were sometimes being lost and families were losing money, which doesn't make you feel very good. The whole lesson experience was beginning to be a frustrating one instead of the happy, joyful one that we had set out for it to be. And so we realized we had to make a change that not everyone would agree with. We know flexibility is really important for busy families. So what we've done is instead of those makeups, we now just add up to 4 to 5 completely free lessons into our students' overall tuition. So that way, if they do need to cancel, they don't have to feel guilty about it and they don't have to worry about rearranging any schedules. And for the families that never cancel, you guys get even more value on your lesson memberships. And that has been a game changer. Now our teachers can actually focus on teaching. They don't have to do any administrative tasks. And our students are a lot more relieved when they don't have to feel any kind of guilt about canceling lessons or having to rearrange their schedules. We're so glad that we made this change, and we're never looking back. Spreading ourselves too thin. And now for the most painful lesson that we've learned, and that was spreading ourselves too thin. In the early days, we were just so eager to please and would say yes to every opportunity that came our way. And so that resulted in making some commitments that we shouldn't have made. I mean, we were accepting students from all over Northern Virginia, and we were a small team. We were a small studio. I'm embarrassed to admit it, but there were a couple scenarios where we had teachers that were driving 45 minutes to an hour between homes. And today that is just completely unacceptable. Teachers were dealing with unpredictable traffic, showing up late, frazzled, stressed, which wasn't a good start to the lesson. We had to come to terms that our teachers were being spread too thin, and they weren't even getting the most out of their teaching days because they were spending so much of it driving. So we had to make some really tough decisions, and we had to let some families go. We decided to refocus our studio on only a couple cities and locations based on how many students we already had in that area. So today we only service in McLean, Falls Church, and Arlington, Virginia. And that was a hard decision to make because we had to say goodbye to some of our beloved families. And some of these families were with us from the very beginning when we first opened. So it was quite heartbreaking to send them that notice. But it had to be done. It was the only way to create a high quality, sustainable service for our students and our teachers. At the end of the day, students want the same thing. They want their teachers to be happy. They want their teachers to stay with them a long time. And they want their teachers to be less stressed. And so for teachers to stay long term, we realized that we had to lay down a firm foundation in work-life balance. And by the way, if this video has been helpful to you in kind of understanding the business behind the studio, please hit that like button and subscribe to our YouTube channel so we can have a bigger impact in the music education world. So what's changed as a result of these changes? Where are we now? Well, our teachers now drive less than 15 minutes from home to home. Teachers feel valued because now their time is valued, and they have more security in their paycheck. Their schedules are more manageable, and now they have more energy to focus on the student and the lesson and just elevate that experience. And they show up ready to teach. And our students are so much happier. And we know this because there's a lot less calls and emails coming our way from disappointed parents. In fact, our team now has more time on their hands, so much so that we're able to invest it into other projects that level up the student experience, such as student events and reward programs. And I'll be honest with you, not everybody was happy with these changes, but thankfully they heard us out and they came around. And they also agree and understand that we're all a part of this ecosystem. And this is how we help each other be successful in the long term. Ultimately, students win here because they get to keep their teacher for longer. Nobody likes being transferred from one teacher to another due to burnout. Not one of these changes was easy. In fact, there were months where I contemplated actually doing them because I was so apprehensive. How would our families react? Would students leave? Would our teachers even understand? There were no guarantees. But in the end, it was the right decision to make, and we are all the better for it. And if you're interested in learning more about our studio, where we do prioritize teachers and we do focus on long-term success, even when it's not easy, we'd love to welcome you to follow us or add us on your favorite social media platform. We're on Instagram, LinkedIn, Facebook, posting new content every single week. There's a lot more that we've learned, and we're more than happy to share. The links will be in the description below. I'll see you in the next video, and keep the music going.